Welcome. Korean disaster films are filled with incredible stories that captivate and evoke deep emotions. In today's countdown, I'll present the top 10 Korean disaster movies that will keep you on the edge of your seat and showcase human resilience in the face of calamity. Get ready for unforgettable moments. Number 10. Ashfall. The tremors herald a catastrophe that will consume everything in its path. The Paektu volcano, dormant for thousands of years, awakens to life, and its eruption has a force that no one can stop. The earth trembles, the sky darkens with ash, and an endless avalanche of lava flows like a curse. Panic-stricken people try to escape, but there is nowhere to go. Any direction means death and destruction. Desperate scientists devise a risky plan, detonate nuclear charges deep underground in an attempt to stem the tide of destruction. But the mission seems almost suicidal, and time is inexorably running out. Chaos, uncertainty, and terror seize everyone, knowing that the slightest mistake will lead to the apocalypse. Number 9. The Tower. A Christmas night that was supposed to be full of glitter and joy turns into a nightmare in one of Seoul's tallest skyscrapers. The luxurious tower, a place full of elegant guests, flashing lights, and bustling partying, becomes a trap in a split second. Flames erupt suddenly and without warning, and the fire begins to spread with frightening speed, engulfing the floors one by one. People who just moments earlier were laughing at festive tables are now desperately fighting for every breath, fleeing the waves of fire and smoke. Every corridor, every staircase becomes a maze leading nowhere, from which there is no way out. As the chaos grows, even the heroes trying to save others begin to lose hope. The burning tower resembles an inferno, where every second is a struggle on the brink of life and death, and the screams of those trapped and the sound of creaking walls tear up the night, heralding impending tragedy. Number 8. Pandora. In the heart of South Korea lies an old nuclear power plant that is barely holding together day after day. No one suspects that in its nooks and crannies lurks an unseen threat, a disaster that humanity is not prepared to face. When a massive earthquake occurs, the reactor's containment is breached and uncontrolled radiation begins to leak out. Panic breaks out. People try to flee, but the death from radiation is swift and ruthless. In the blink of an eye, cities become death zones, and those who remain there fight for every breath, every moment of life. A handful of power plant workers decide on a heroic mission, knowing that they are going to certain death, but the lives of millions are at stake. Time is running out, the reactor threatens to finally explode, and the atmosphere thickens as the specter of a nuclear apocalypse looms on the horizon. Number 7. Exit. Dense, toxic smoke is flooding the city, seeping into every crevice, poisoning everything in its path. People who just moments ago were among the crowd are now struggling for breath, seeking rescue at every turn. A young man and woman, trapped on the roof of a skyscraper, look at the inferno spreading around them. There is nowhere to escape, no one to save them. With each passing moment, the suffocating smog climbs higher and higher, approaching them like the inexorable shadow of death. Their only chance becomes a desperate climb upwards, over ropes, elevations, anything to escape the impending doom. In a murderous race against time and their own weaknesses, every careless step risks falling into the arms of death. Number 6. Tidal Wave. Haeundae Beach is alive with crowds of tourists and locals, enjoying the sun and going about their day, unaware of the looming catastrophe. Alarming tremors go unnoticed until it's too late. Far on the horizon, a massive tsunami wave rises, growing stronger with each second. Panic erupts as people try to flee, but chaos overwhelms them. Families are torn apart, screams blend with the thunderous roar of water, and there's nowhere to hide. The giant wave crashes, crushing buildings and sweeping everything in its path into the abyss, transforming this peaceful beach into a scene of utter devastation as people fight to survive nature's unstoppable wrath. Number 5. Emergency Declaration. In the claustrophobic interior of the plane, The passengers, unaware of the nightmare threatening them, begin a flight that was supposed to be a peaceful journey. Soon, however, chaos erupts on board when one of the passengers begins to show symptoms of an unknown, fatal disease. Fear and panic quickly spread through the confined space, and every breath could be the last. People begin to desperately avoid each other, trying to protect themselves from the invisible killer. With each passing minute, the situation becomes more dramatic. The captain and crew face an unimaginable dilemma: land and risk the spread of the plague, or leave the passengers aloft, where no one will hear their cries for help. In an atmosphere of thickening tension and terror, the plane becomes a flying coffin from which there is no escape. Number 4. Project Silence. A sudden change in the weather transforms the bridge into a place straight out of a nightmare. Dense fog and heavy rains reduce visibility to almost zero, and those on the bridge are suddenly left cut off and with no chance of escape. Amid the raging chaos, powerful explosions shake the structure, which threatens to collapse at any moment. However, this is not the end of the nightmare. Something unnatural begins to emerge from the mysterious military containers codenamed Echo, transported secretly as part of an experiment called Project Silence. These objects, which were supposed to remain hidden, are now being released, and terrified people are becoming their targets. Possessed with a lust for attack and having no mercy, these beings sense every step and every trembling breath of the remaining survivors, turning the bridge into a battlefield between humans and an unknown, ruthless threat. Number 3. Tunnel. Jung-soo, an ordinary car salesman, is driving home with a cake for his daughter's birthday when his life suddenly turns into a nightmare. He enters a tunnel, and in an instant the whole world collapses in on him. Literally. The structure collapses, and Jung-soo is completely trapped under the mass of rubble. On the surface, this tragedy spreads with lightning speed, creating a veritable media frenzy. Authorities quickly form a rescue team, and the government assures full support for the operation. The Jung-soo situation becomes a national topic, attracting national attention. However, days pass without success, and hope and interest slowly begin to fade. Jung-soo's family faces dramatic choices, while no one is sure if he is even still alive. Number 2. Sinkhole. In the heart of the city, a massive sinkhole suddenly opens, swallowing buildings, people, and everything in its path. A residential block filled with families vanishes into the depths, leaving survivors trapped in darkness hundreds of meters underground. With limited food and water, desperation grows as they're surrounded by suffocating silence and darkness. The sinkhole itself feels alive, threatening them not only with starvation, but with collapsing walls, turning their escape into a race against time. In this underground nightmare, every step could be their last as hope fades and the abyss tightens its grip. Number 1. Concrete Utopia. In post-apocalyptic Seoul after a devastating earthquake, only the modern Hwanggung apartment building remains intact, becoming the last bastion for survivors. The building's residents have closed themselves off to the outside world over time, refusing to shelter people in need, fearing for resources and their own safety. The Hwanggung community, initially operating in hopes of survival, begins to evolve, creating internal brutal rules governing life in their Utopia. Amid growing paranoia and brutality, the residents change beyond recognition, and their humanity is tested as they clash with their own fear, desperation, and moral boundaries. That wraps up our list of the best Korean disaster movies. Which one left the biggest impact on you? Or maybe you have your own favorite disaster films that didn't make the list? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next countdown.